Hi, welcome. On this video, I'd like to talk about the issue of physical force. Again, physical force is defined through different, people will describe certain interactions with dogs. Physical force in certain definitions, such as using a correction, certain interactions, such as, say, alpha rolling a dog, even certain devices. Which are defined as being adversive, presents that imagery of physical force, such as, pinch collars and remote collars, or people call them shock collars. And here's the thing to really consider. Again, I talk about even drawing a line in the sand and defining what physical force, even this dominance issue. People talk about this dominance issue. But really, taking it and defining it the way it needs to be, relationally. Okay, just understand, dogs are social relational animals, so everything's connected that way. Okay, it's about relationship. It's important to understand. It's how nature defines it. Okay, rather than us trying to define it ourselves by way of again. What we see. And again, I'll talk about in this video the issue about why that's such a problem through appearances, and what people will what they're defaulting to. Because again, when people are trying to define physical force, and put it in its own separate little compartment, okay, it's trying to separate it away from at the relationship level with how nature defines it. It's a huge problem, but they're doing it. People that do this are doing so, but they're defaulting. Their kind of go-to, their pillar that they're standing on, is this idea, okay, that training is some sort of a learning-based exercise, okay, that you can avoid, having to bring a dog under any sort of influence, leadership, however people want to call it. I'll talk more about this in a minute. And you can get around all of it, okay? You turn it into some sort of cooperative, feel-good exercise, and based off just what you see, okay? Based off of just looking at just the response part of the picture, that is representative that good things are happening, okay? And what I show is that when you fail to consider the motives of dogs, okay? You consider the look, go deeper to actually put that picture to the test, then that can be a tremendous problem, because it doesn't line up, okay, with how a dog's decision-making process is governed relationally, okay, with, understanding that it's not just about dogs moving around and going through the motions and doing certain things. You have to actually look at the reasons that they're doing that, based off of how they connect with us, how they're that bond, that social connection that is established, and how that affects their thinking processes. So really, when you look at this issue of understanding what behavior issues are a result of the motives of dogs going sideways, and control issues with how they will manifest that way, okay? And but again, getting back to this issue about physical force itself, in how it's defined through the process, okay, is coming to an understanding that you can't separate it. You can't turn it into something to merely promote, okay, a ideology, because ultimately that's what's happening right now in the dog training world. People are taking this issue and they're using it as a way to market, okay, an idea of what training is, even though without considering, okay, the motives of dogs, without actually looking at this picture and asking some questions prior to dogs going back out into the real world. And so again, but the issue about, getting back to the issue of physical force and how people interact, again, I talk about how it is that the personality type of the person, okay, dogs again are amazing, okay, they share a very special connection with us And just like how nature is, it's the same thing with the dominance issue. Sorry for the rain. There's a lot of rain coming down right now. But even the issue of understanding, I put my wiper blades on, not here. Even the issue of understanding the process, getting to an understanding of the part that influence plays in that process. Okay, again, this is why I get into the specifics of my method. Okay, the system of training that I've developed, how that comes together. Okay, how influence comes together within the parameters or framework, okay, of the type of influence, okay, through how you're using leashes, how you're interacting with the dog, within the parameters of what's reasonable. So the reasonableness of the type of influence, the dog comes into agreement with it. Okay, so that's actually the motivator. And I mean, that's just something where, again, and I'll get into this in more videos about this whole thing about motivating agents, of using something to incentivize or influence the dog, to motivate the dog to do certain things, that you have to be aware that the part that plays in the relationship, relationally, whether or not that's actually changing how people think, okay, based on what's needed. Because again, this is where I show training is really an intervention. Once you're experiencing behavior issues and problems, you're at an intervention level. Okay, the process needs to take on the form of an intervention. You already have control issues that are manifesting. The motives of the dog are already sideways, and so if you incorporate, or again take, approach the process as some sort of a learning-based exercise, and you begin to incentivize and motivate the dog that way, it can lead to a failure for the motives to clean up. Okay, dog can continue to hold control. But again, the point of this video, go back to this issue about physical force, is again understanding that you can't separate. This is why, again, on another video I talked about the relational wild card, okay, and how people think strength, this issue, this idea about strength and weakness, or what dominance issue represents, physical force and all these different things. It's through nature itself, how it defines strength and weakness through the person themselves, or say with another animal, okay, another dog. It all nature defines that way. This is why even the dominance issue is so problematic when people are trying to understand what does that type of what does that even mean, with how that frames up through nature, with seeing certain interactions, such as people's expectations, seeing certain types of overt physical interactions. You're not going to see that because of how this how that plays out relationally at a deeper level. Okay, and I'll get into more of that in another video as well. But I want people to really understand that when you hear these trainers and these behavioralists and all these people going on about physical force and what it is, and that these tools, and they're going on about using certain definitions, it's all playing off this ideology. It's all playing off this idea of this interpretive script that fails to look at the motives of dogs. Okay, doesn't consider it. And then if you look at all the problems happening right now in the dog training world, which are tremendous. I want people to understand there's tremendous problems, because the majority of trainers approach training as some sort of either a full-blown or a middle-of-the-road learning-based exercise. They're invested in that narrative, and it's so problematic based on what needs to happen with the owner, how that packages up, frames up through the owner who needs to change. Okay, I want people to understand what that promotes or doesn't promote. Okay, it really is a major problem. So I would encourage people to take a serious look at the system, the methodology. This whole system was developed from asking these tough questions, okay, years and years ago, and breaking this stuff down layer by layer, and drawing into really focusing in on, okay, what is going on here, what creates change in a system. This is what makes the system totally unique. You're not going to find another system out there anywhere in the dog training world, because it's a relational system. Okay, the methodology, everything, it's specific to this system. Okay, all the methodology is specific to this system. So again, encourage you to check it out. But again, if you're looking at some sort of a take on physical force, what does physical force represent? What does it mean? Trust me, it's not what people are saying it is. It's defined relationally. Okay, it all comes together that way. It's unique. It's through the person. Okay, it's how you think. So it's strength and weakness defined by nature. So, but again, the default when people are saying certain things, understand they're defaulting back to. Okay, they're basing everything off an ideology that's based merely off appearances. So, thanks for watching.